of all, a very, very good afternoon to all of you. Thanks for being so kind to be here after a very, very good lunch. I'm sure you would have had a heavy, fulfilled lunch, but little kind you can be to me while I'm presenting something which is a very, very different topic than what we just heard about AI. So, my topic, when it came to me, and I was just wondering, okay, I have done a lot of things around myself to really be resilient, cope with the stress of today's world. I have already been into a lot of, ups and downs in life. I have faced all of them. I was wondering what is that I can bring to this table. I'm sure all of you over here, sitting here, is much more experienced. Rather, you can share life experiences from your own self. But with that, I thought that let me take a dig into it. Let me try talking about it. I'm not going to making speeches because I'm yet not a Sadguru, but I can always try to talk about what really impacted me, how did I look at things, and continuously what do I think about my journey when I'm in the corporate world, handling my personal life as well as the overall working environment. I'll take a pause here and I'll just quickly go to where I come from. So I work for Merck. A lot of you would know Mercedes. It's not the same. Merck is a science and technology company. It's a 350-year-old plus company. It was owned by a family first, and then it continues to be owned by family majorly, but it's across 60 countries, 66,000 employees. We are into 3 primary sectors: healthcare, life sciences, and electronics. And we have a footprint in India of around 4,000 people. And in that, 1,100 people are in the GCC of Merck. And this GCC Merck is headed by me. Now, I have a very interesting story to share, but I would do that eventually while we are talking about my journey. But before we get into the topic, do we really think that it's a big problem for us? Are we coping well with today's modern demands? Are we also looking at if we are being able to cater to how we would want to, look at the problems which are knocking our door? Not many of us really think it's a big problem. We think that productivity loss is happening because people are working from home and they are not coming to offices. Might not be. Have we ever dug into the topic? Around 12 crore people are currently not addressing the health issues of mind. We don't talk about it. There are stigmas to it. And why do we have stigmas to it? Because probably I'm being judged. I might not be accepted in the society. It's not okay to say I'm not okay, and so on. So there are a lot of things which we have to dwell upon. If you see $1.1 trillion is the productivity loss for organizations. So what are we looking at? Isn't it our real-time problem? And each one of you sitting here, future leaders, current leaders, aspiring leaders, this is going to be your problem. And are we ready to really handle this? I am trying to get equipped, and that is where I'm going to share a little bit about my story. With that, largely, I'm going to talk about 4 things. I'm not going to eat up a lot of time from all of you, but what I'm going to do is talk about these 4 things, what you see on the screen. A lot of us think being emotional is being emotional fool, but that's not how it is. In the world of AI, EQ is equally important, and I think each one of us over here would agree to me more than what I am asking you to. Because emotions is a driver to a lot of things which we do. Looking at realistic goals, I'm sure each one of you set goals for yourself in the professional context as well as in your personal context. And are we being realistic? Those are the things which our thought processes have to be aligned to, which also brings in a lot of thought process for us to see how we are navigating ourselves. Are we putting pressure to our own selves? Are we really looking at doables? Are we trying to be extra ambitious because my neighbor has a Mercedes and I do not? So these are certain things which you need to calibrate when you are in a social environment. Give the social group back. I think each one of us, we have criteria, priorities, etc. in terms of which social group I would belong to, how much I would want to give back to that social group, how much do I take from that social group. So these are certain things which I'm also willing to talk about through some of the small examples which I have had experienced in my life. Last but not the least, keep your learning skills always awake. That's why I think you're all here. Maybe listening to some experiences ignites some thought process, and hence I think sharing experiences, learning through different experiences is one of the best ways to learn. So quickly, you're going to see these 4 beautiful pictures, and you're going to think, what is she talking about? I would take live examples, and I would also want you to give me a little bit about the questions I ask you. What being tender would mean to you? Can anyone from the group, if you can just stand up and just tell what being tender would mean? Vulnerable? Tender? Empathy? Light-hearted? Kind-hearted? Okay, we heard a lot of things. Now tell me one thing, how many of us think that kindness is a weakness? We don't, right? We do not think that way. But a lot of times when someone is nice, respectful, polite, we often tend to take that person very lightly. You know, someone walks in with all the airs. Hey, I am the best person in this world. You give more attention to that person than someone just walking humbly, sitting and not talking enough and trying to be respectful of others in the room. We continuously do that judgment. So I'm now going to ask you one thing. Have you ever played with a rubber band? Okay, so any one volunteer who can just stand up and say, what have you observed? Anyone? When you stretch it too much, it gets torn apart. Anyone else? Elastic? Yeah. Elasticity goes off. Yeah? The more you pull, the closer it comes.
The more you pull it, with more force it will come back and it will hurt you the more.
Yeah. So exactly. That's how I think two people in relationship of work, of professionalism, of being into a relationship is like that. You're holding the string, the situation, as a rubber band. And you have to know how much you would want to stretch it, how much you would want to leverage it. And at times, we being humans, we don't even care that if you leave the string, all of a sudden, the other end of the rubber band, it might hurt the other person on the other end. So being kind-hearted is important. It's not that you have to always show kind-heartedness. It's in your DNA. It's in how you inculcate yourself. Being kind will always give you 100 times of returns than what a Bitcoin can give you. And that's my guarantee, I can tell you. Now the second, emotional regulation. What do you understand by this? I think a lot of people think showing my emotions is not the right thing to do. How many of you think that? Let's be honest. 1, 2, 3. There are only 3 honest people in this room. Okay, the fourth one is hanging around. Okay, let me tell you, when I was starting up my career, a lot of people used to say that, yeah, Anu, you are very emotional. That's not how you should be. And I used to wonder, why is that? And I never understood why should I not be emotional. Then they told me in the professional context that being emotional is perceived to be a weakness. And I was not able to comprehend that. How is emotional being weakness? It's strength, right? I mean, all my life I've learned you should love, care, give, and then all of a sudden in a corporate world I walk in and they say that, oh, you cannot be emotional in your conversations. You cannot be, asking or demanding where you show your emotions. If someone says a no, you should be happily saying, oh, thank you, I like your perspective, but I also think this is how it should be. It didn't get into my head at all. But what I understood of this is regulation is important. You should show your displeasure. You should say probably, this is not the best thing I liked about our conversation, but however, I take it because we are two different individuals. So regulating it is important. Now, if I have to give examples of my own emotional regulations of how did I do. So there was one particular example in my life where I had to really choose to be in my only sister's wedding or sit for the campus placements. And all these creates a lot of stress, right? I mean, campus placement, I've finished my MBA, all of us are rushing for competition, who gets placed first? And then the same exact week where all the good companies were supposed to come in is when my sister decided to get married. And in Hindus, we look at the muhurat and then we get married, and the muhurat had to be the same like what my placement was. Now what do? A lot of people said, look, if you are not sitting for the placements now, your life is not going to be the same. You will really suffer. I said, okay. I heard them, and then I kept listening to what everyone had to say. But I did at the end what I really felt like. I have one sister, probably she'll get married once, and then probably I'll never have this situation again in life. So let me go attend her wedding, and then I'll see what it comes. And I had to wait. It was not easy. Everyone got placed. There were only like 1 or 2 people who were not placed because of XYZ reasons, and I was one among them. And then I was very sad, and then I had to really think positively that, okay, I will get placed. And then this company comes, General Motors, and they did not ever come to any campuses. First time ever they come, they picked me up. I started work before anyone else did. I did my MBA, and I just did not even finish my exams, and I started working, and that's how life treated me. So it's not that, a lot of time we add in a pressure on us saying that, okay, if we don't do this, this is just going to break. But probably what we have to step back and see that, okay, now I might go 2 steps behind, but later it might absolutely make sense. So that's my experience, and I have had those experiences which really helped me. Now, realistic goals. A lot of time people say that, Anu, a lot of you might not know, I come from the human resource background. I did a lot of HR related topics in my career, compensation, talent acquisition, payroll, HR business partnering. And then, what happened is, one fine day I get this opportunity where I was asked to lead the IT center. And that was my life-changing event. And how did it happen? If I would have set this goal that, no, I have to only be the CHRO, I would not have turned out to be the head of IT organization. And it could have really made a difference in terms of how I would have looked upon my career. Opportunities come, and opportunities knock your door, and it's important to see in yourself whether you would want to take it or not. A lot of people said, you don't know how to code. You don't know how to write a single line of code. How are you going to be the IT head? Someone also told me that, Anu, you don't have a Twitter handle. How can you be the IT head of an organization? And I was like, really, to become an IT head, I have to have a Twitter handle? I was amazed. But one thing what I understood is, the organization did not need someone to code. What it needed is a leader who could lead with the asset of people. And that I had. That was the quality they wanted in me. And that's how they looked upon me to be a leader in this space. So it's important. It's very, very important to have these important things in your life. These are all stress creators. If you listen to the entire world, you might not take the best decision. But if you listen because you know the best for yourself, the pressures might get reduced. And it is also might, because our mind is very strong, and I will talk about it very shortly. The last example which I would want to give, when I headed towards maternity, and then was time, after 84 days, the clock started ticking back for me to come back. All of us would have had certain situations where either you or someone near and dear had the situation, there's a newborn baby, how do I manage it? Either I call my parents, or I keep someone to take care, or I leave my job. So it was a very important decision. It took me a lot of hard time to really think what I would want to do. But I went after 84 days. I kept my daughter in a daycare which was right below. And it was not a very, very, very easy decision, because it had an impact on my mental well-being, because I was socially informed that as a mother, I have to always 24/7 be with my daughter. So that's when I started talking to really a lot of people, but one person who made that impact to me is that as a mother, what is your primary role? And I was wondering, okay, I have to take care of the kid, I have to. So the person, my husband, he said, no, you have to feed your daughter. And that's the most important part of your motherhood. And that you're doing. You're already feeding your daughter, you're near to her, you just go and feed her and come back. Rest things can be outsourced, because for that you really don't need only a mother to do it. So that comforted me. That comforted me from a lot of pressure which the society was giving me, and it was important for me to tell, okay, this is absolutely fine. And that's how I was able to navigate, because the first interaction which comes, there were judgmental statements from women themselves who are mothers. How cruel a mother you are. How can you just leave some 4 or 5 months old daughter into a creche? So these are some things which you have to rationalize in your lives to be able to calibrate. And that's what I have learned. It's not that I already knew from my mother's womb, but I had to learn this skill. And as I said, I was very emotional, I still am, so I continue to keep that momentum. Now very quickly, an important thing. A lot of people say that I am into doing something which makes sense. I want to do AI, GPT, ML, because that's the in thing. But why do we constantly think that we have to only do the things which are currently in trend? Why are we not progressively thinking? Now, a lot of time, if I go back to my career, I did extraordinary leadership coaching when I was just a junior HR business partner. I did not have much to really contribute to leaders coaching. I did that certification. I took the Hogan assessment. I did a lot of Dale Carnegie advanced skills training. Why did I do it? And how did it help me? A lot of people said, you're just collating, you have a habit of collating all the certificates, and that's what you are interested. How does it help? It does not help you immediately. It might, but you're getting prepared. You have to be prepared, because when the time comes, that's not when you will say, okay, wait, I'm going to now go back, learn, and then come back. No one is going to wait for you. So it's important that you up your skills. It's highly important in the tech world that you keep ahead of the trends. It's important that you are relevant. And that's one of the biggest thing which we see. I know my time is up, but I'll just quickly take another 2 minutes to talk about what we were talking till now. If you see our senses of what we see, eat, feel, etc., and what we do also as an action has a direct interaction with manas. So this is all Indian philosophy. We just spoke about AI, so we know more about AI these days than looking consciously into the Indian philosophy which we talk about. So manas is like our mind, which sends waves to really the buddhi which we have. And buddhi is our data lake where it's constantly analyzing, it's constantly talking about everything, and it's giving you the relevant data. Chit is the memory. We go into the entire, comma, full stop. Okay, this scenario, this is what it happens. This scenario, this is what happens. So that's when, all of this interact, and the I-ness comes from ahankar. That's the I-ness which we have. So all of this interacts and gives you your actions. Now I have a very, very important question, and with that thought process I would want to leave you, is this. What do you see in this? Who or what decides where does the chariot go? So if I have to interpret, horses are the senses, the 5 senses, the string is the mind, the buddhi is the charioteer. Who do you think decides where to go? Anyone from the crowd? Buddhi? How many of you think buddhi? Okay. How many of you think mind? How many of you think are not thinking at all? I think most of us. Okay. It's actually our conscience. Our conscience is the most important factor which drives the entire scenarios around us. So I would want you to leave you with this thought that how you can also build a resilience in your organization, in yourself, by just remembering this entire picture. With that, I would want to thank you for all your patience, and I'm open for any questions if there are.